I'm Drew.
And I'm John. This episode and every future episode is dedicated to the horror hounds and smokers out there who want to expand their knowledge of the genre and have a good time.
I am so happy today because today we're celebrating the 36th anniversary of 1985's The Return of the Living Dead, my favorite zombie movie ever. And to top it off, we have a very special guest with us, Thom Mathews, Freddy from Return of the Living Dead, and Tommy Jarvis from Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives.
Hell yeah.
He's going to spill his guts to us in an exclusive interview. All that and more today on High on Horror. Interviews, reviews, and the latest news all rolled into one.
Now it's time for Screaming Room. This week we're reviewing Episode 6, FaceTime, for Slasher Flesh and Blood.
Ugh, FaceTime. That's just so wrong. Once you see the episode, you'll get it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have as many flashbacks now. We're getting into the home stretch. Only 2 episodes left, and a lot did happen this episode. I mean, someone went to an all-you-could-eat, and then they took a trip right after.
There was no cheeks clapping. Again, this is like 2 episodes straight, no cheeks clapping. I'm surprised.
But we did get a reference to Big Dick Drago. Which, I might have to use that as my EA name. I mean, they've already suspended me enough that I'm not allowed to change my own name. EA took the process away from me. But getting back to Slasher, I mean, we also had a crazy cliffhanger. Do you think some important questions were answered about halfway through the episode, and then everything's becoming a little more clear, and then the end of the episode, you don't know what to think now.
Yeah, and to quote Shorty from Scary Movie, there was ass, blood, and guts everywhere. There was a lot of death in this episode. Someone gets a new pair of tits.
Oh, yeah.
You know, snippity snip snip, someone gets old boyed.
Old boy.
You'll see what I mean once you watch the episode, when you catch it this Thursday. It was one hell of an episode. This is probably the best episode. This one went far, and it explained a lot. And look, I told you I'd be honest from the start, and I'm going to be honest. The killer is not who I thought it was. I am not going to tell you who I thought it was or who it is. But yes, John and I were wrong.
Yeah, and also that music at the end of the episode, I really enjoyed that. It was like a hauntingly beautiful tune at the end of that episode.
Yeah, I agree. And the camera work during the very end, how the camera work did an upside down thing. It was really nice camera work in this episode.
Yeah, and next week the season's going to wrap up. Both episodes 7 and 8 are dropping on the same day, so we'll have it all wrapped up next week. I can't wait to see how it turns out. Make sure to catch Slasher Flesh and Blood exclusively on Shudder.
All right, I'm ready to get baked. Well, we're ready to get baked. Let's get into Strainwreck. Now it's time for Strainwreck, the segment where John and I discuss which strain we're getting wrecked on in each episode. Today, we're smoking LA Pop Rocks. This shit is crazy good. I am fucking gone. Like I'm Joe Rogan high right now.
All right, let me check this out here.
And I got another one rolled here, so I'm ready. We're ready to go.
It's definitely got like a sweet sour smell almost.
I'm on a fucking new level right now, bro. I'm telling you.
Dude, these fucking nugs are crazy. It's like, it's almost more orange than it actually is even green, just with these orange hairs, and then it's just got like a little bit of that dark purple. And the trichomes, it does fit the name. They do kind of look like little pop rocks. I can't wait to smoke this shit.
Well, I'm gonna spark us up, man. What do you got going on this week in horror history?
This week in horror history.
So this week, debuted on September 9th, 2005, we have The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I'm a big fan of the movie, and I really don't know anybody that dislikes this movie. Drew, I know you're a fan as well.
Oh, yeah. I saw The Exorcism of Emily Rose in theaters with my friends. and we loved it. It was scary as hell, and it was something that we haven't seen before. And during the commentary, director Scott Derrickson, said that The Exorcist was the best possession film of all time in his opinion, but some of it isn't believable or, plausible, like the head spin. How did Regan survive that? So Scott wanted to take The Exorcist and make it as believable as possible by using faith and medicine to conflict the viewer. And he did just that. And I actually had a conversation with Scott Derrickson on Twitter, and I told him that The Exorcism of Emily Rose is the second best exorcism film of all time after The Exorcist. Would you agree?
Sorry, passing that back over. Yeah, I would agree. It's probably the second best one, and yeah, like I said, I agreed with you. I saw that in theaters as well. Jennifer Carpenter, just the shit she was able to do with her body was crazy. How she could contort it and everything. And I mean, this was loosely based on the true story of Annalise Michel.
Yep.
But I did also like the idea that Scott Derrickson, who he said himself was a believer, brought in Harris Boardman, who was more of a skeptic. And I thought that was interesting, and it does play out how they want it, that it doesn't really, the movie doesn't tell you one way or the other.
It leaves it up to you.
Yeah, it leaves it up to you to believe what you want to believe in it. But I thought it was really, really well done. And I mean, it has a pretty good cast in it. I mean, besides Jennifer Carpenter plays Emily Rose, you have Tom Wilkinson, who I think is really an underrated character actor. I think he's great in everything he does. He was great in Batman Begins.
And I want to bring up how you had said that Jennifer Carpenter did a great job, with her body contorting, because one of the things that happened is whenever a good movie comes out, everybody and their mother tries to rip it off, and that is exactly what happened, unfortunately. That was her contorting, her body movements. That was part of the scares, part of the creeps of watching The Exorcism of Emily Rose. And after that, it just seems that everybody thought, oh shit, every exorcism movie on the planet now needs to have the woman or girl possessed be completely able to fold in half and crawl along walls like a spider, and it's it just took off. And it's The Exorcism of Emily Rose succeeded because it wasn't just about that, and it didn't go overboard with it, but it just seemed oh shit, she bent backwards with her back, so let's have somebody take that even further and then make them run up a wall like a spider. And it's that's not what made it scary, it's not. It's oversaturation of that shit.
And there was another thing from the movie that I feel ended up like how you had The Matrix, and for a while after that you had all these movies with bullet time in it. After this, I feel like there was a lot of horror movies that did that changing of the face from a normal face into some kind of scary demon looking face
with black eyes and running mouth and
shit.
It
was a real sudden change. I feel like for a while that was just all over the movies, and then at least it didn't last that long, which I'm happy for.
I agree, and here's a little knowledge nugget for you. If you pay attention, in the beginning of the film, you see blood on the barbed wire fence. That is to indicate that is how Emily got the stigmata on her hands. Another knowledge nugget: Emily's failed exorcism attempt takes place on Halloween, so The Exorcism of Emily Rose technically is a Halloween film.
I know that, but I haven't seen the movie in so long, I forgot that. I think I'll have to add that to my Halloween list.
And it's a scary one, too, so it's good. It's good.
And sadly, I have to say, I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but it's really good. And I mean, it's memorable that I mean, it's probably been at least 5 years, but I remember that movie very well.
Yeah, and it's one of those ones that burns into your mind because, like The Exorcist, it actually was original and wasn't just something you've seen 1,000 times, which I can't tell you anything that happened in the last exorcism. I can't, and I don't care to go back and rewatch it. But also, let's bring this up real quick. Our boy Scott Derrickson here, the director, also did Sinister. We've talked about this before. Sinister is our shit. I love Sinister, man.
Yeah, well, we've definitely talked about it. And again, I will say it's one of the few movies recently that has successfully creeped me out. I can't give enough praise to the first Sinister movie.
Yeah, and I actually found out during the commentary on that Scott Derrickson is a fan of the supernatural horror film The Pact from 2012, directed by Nicholas McCarthy, who also did The Prodigy in 2019. You got me to watch The Prodigy, actually. Well, yeah, I talked to him about the Scott Derrickson. I talked to him about The Pact on Twitter, and that was cool. And he liked that movie, so he definitely has good taste in movies, And it's good to see him doing big time shit with Marvel now.
Yeah, and actually, I mentioned Jennifer Carpenter and Tom Wilkinson. I forgot that Laura Linney's in it as well as the attorney. And I think that her and Tom Wilkinson both play really well off each other in the lawyer versus, I guess that would be your skeptic versus the actual believer.
Yeah, I feel you. Absolutely.
And now it's time to get the Puff Puff Ask, the segment of the show where Drew and I answer questions that you send to us through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at High on Horror 420 and through email at highonhorror420@gmail.com.
Yo, man. Puff, puff, pass.
Okay, I'll start us off here with an email from Howard J. from Elkton, Maryland. I chose this question because it's an easy question, and I'm exhausted lately, so I thought this would be a good one to answer, and it's also, people out there could, maybe get some recommendations from it. His question is, what are your favorite horror TV shows? And my answer, definitely not The fucking Walking Dead. Not gonna lie.
I mean, the first 2 seasons are amazing. I think it was up, I gave up a while ago, but I think it was up to like season 4 with the whole governor storyline. That was good. Then I kind of fell behind and I got caught back up and I watched stuff with Negan, and then they got rid of Rick, they killed Carl, and people were leaving, and I'm like, why don't they just end this? And then, like, come on, they were supposed to make 3 Rick movies, and they're just now working on the first one?
I'm so out of touch with that whole fan base and everything anymore. I don't even know. I hung on to watching the show way too long. I'm not going to turn this into one of your Rob Zombie bashing sessions.
I was just about
but
to
I'm
say.
just going to say, like, there has been, like, literally seasons worth, not a season worth, seasons worth, where I have watched that show with my wife, and after every episode for seasons, we thought, like, why are we still watching this? We held on way too long, way longer than we should have. Actually, though, but to go back to the question, my favorite horror show, honestly, I know it's newer, but I think my favorite horror show, I'm going to pick Ash vs. Evil Dead, because it is everything that I love about the Evil Dead series. I think that everybody loves about the Evil Dead series. It's everything that's great about the Evil Dead series in little 30-minute bursts. Many of the cast from the films are even in the show, and Sam Raimi is involved, plus Bruce Campbell. I mean, I think that was a perfect show.
Both Raimis.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I'm going to say that right after that, Tales from the Crypt, because I grew up with that show, and that's what got me into horror. Absolutely Tales from the Crypt. Besides that, just to name drop a few, I love Hannibal. That was another great show, gone too soon, like Ash vs. Evil Dead, canceled, bastards. Penny Dreadful was good. And of course, there's Buffy and the X-Files and the Twilight Zone. John, what do you think?
The original Twilight Zone still number 1 to me. I'd probably put it in my top 5 all-time TV series. And I don't really care for any of the other incarnations of the Twilight Zone. Just give me the Rod Serling ones, and I'm good. The movie, I think it was from 84, somewhere around there. I enjoyed that. I know the whole story, John Landis is a murderer or whatever. But I enjoyed the Twilight Zone movie. The first 4 seasons of Dexter are fucking amazing.
Yeah, I guess Dexter does technically count as horror. That's true. I mean, I'm a huge Dexter fan, and I kind of let that one slip by the cracks. I didn't think about that. If Dexter is a player in the horror genre, which I guess it would be horror thriller, then yeah, that's probably right up there with it's probably 1 or 2 on the list.
If Silence of the Lambs is a horror movie, Dexter's a horror TV show.
Yep, and also for you listeners out there, I don't give a shit if you agree or disagree because it's the truth. 7 is a horror film as well.
Yeah. I just actually only watched that a couple years ago for the first time. It was one of those movies I just never got around to. But yeah, the first 4 seasons of Dexter are amazing. Then it kind of got off the rails. 5 was not a good season. 6 was okay. Was it, or correct me if I'm wrong, was it the end of 6 that Deb finds out he's a serial killer? Is it the end of 6?
Yeah, it's the end of 6.
Because it went 8 seasons, and then 7 was her dealing with that, which I thought 7 was a good season, and then the final season is just a whole, what in the hell were they doing?
There's there's so much about that season it's lazy writing. Honestly, that's what it is. Let's break it down and be truthful, because when you go back to the original seasons of Dexter, part of the thrill was how sneaky he was about at never getting caught. And then there was times like in season 2 when like you're deathly scared. Remember when he's in the trunk of the car and the little Mexican boy is like gonna draw a picture of the man that he saw commit the murder, and you're like, oh my god, like it's over,
And the surprise, motherfucker.
Yes, yeah, like, and there's so many things that were just like, how is he going to get out of this? And he finds some crafty way to do it. And then in like the last few seasons, he's just killing people in broad daylight, walking dead Deb out of a hospital in a wheelchair in the middle of a storm.
A hurricane.
And nobody said it's just like you can't just get from point A to point C without showing point B. And it's like they were just really, that shit just got really sloppy at the end. But I will not let that affect my opinion of the first 4 seasons. Season 1 was amazing. 2 was probably a little better. 3 was kind of like not as good as 1 and 2, but still good. And then 4 just dropped the fucking grenade. 4 was just like, that was it, dude.
I hated Doak so much,
but he was awesome at the same time.
Then he died, and they replaced him with Quinn, and I was like, I want Dokes back. Dude, I was like, I didn't appreciate Dokes for what he was. They're like, I was like, man, now I'm really upset that he's gone.
Well, it's one of those things where it's kind of like Forrest Whitaker in The Shield. It's one of those things where you don't like him because you're not on his side of things. If you're on his side of things, he's actually kind of fucking funny.
I could jump in and start saying that about a lot of characters in The Shield, but that's not what we're here to talk about.
Don't you have a question from somebody we gotta get to?
I do, but man, I'll sit here and keep talking about TV shows. The first season of True Detective.
Oh yeah.
Is that horror?
I mean,
it's got horror elements to it.
It's a serial killer. It's definitely, thriller horror. I could see it fitting into both.
And I will say the first season of True Detective, I put it up there with among the greatest seasons, like single seasons in like television history. Like there's nothing I don't like about the first season of True Detective.
Yeah, I mean, the acting on that show was the thing that got. Let me put it to you this way. I remember watching Matthew McConaughey getting bad reviews for How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and I remember Ebert and Roper, pretty much like one of the, like, I'm gonna paraphrase here, but they pretty much were like, does this dude not ever want to be in a good movie before he dies or what? Like, they were really harsh on him. And then so I remember thinking like, damn man, poor Matthew McConaughey. He was in things like, A Time to Kill. He was in some good movies, yeah. and and then it's like now he's just like that guy where people are just like, he's just a popcorn movie. He sucks, and then I hear like Matthew McConaughey is became a serious actor, like he's shutting people up.
The reconnaissance.
And I watched True Detective and I was like, holy shit, like yeah, like you don't realize the range he has as an actor until you see that show. He blew my mind. Honestly, I'm like, holy shit, he's good. Like the chain smoking, the look, he hooked me. It was, and Woody Harrelson's always good. I love that dude too, and everything he's in. But yeah, like the acting on that show blew
Alexandria
me away.
Daddario in it too.
I know, and she was scantily clad in that episode, or in one of the episodes, and that was definitely season 1 rocked, and the acting was just fucking incredible.
Dude, the reconnaissance was a real thing, man. That and Interstellar, like Interstellar's an amazing movie.
And Dallas Buyers Club. That was the other one. That was where he won his awards.
Man, he had a hell of a little run there.
Yeah, he kind of did like a Robert Downey Jr. and Mickey Rourke. He kind of had like a career resurgence where like people were just like, oh, okay, like he's got another. He's not like like some of these comedians out there. I'm not going to name names, but are trying to like reinvent themselves and do horror movies and
I was
shit.
Gonna say Dax Shepard.
They're not. No, we're not like, it's not comedians trying to go out there and do something new and sucking at it. It's like this dude just like taking what he does seriously and finding the right projects. And Matthew McConaughey had a great streak going there.
I won't go too far, but I mean, it's going to be hard to have a bad movie with Christopher Nolan at the helm. But
I agreed. I'm a Nolan fanboy. It is what it is. I mean, hey, his filmography speaks for itself. Be salty if you want to be.
Anyway, let's move on to the next one here. And this one actually comes from my fiance, Nicole. She said, you and Drew both love Friday the 13th films, and I don't get it. The timeline doesn't make any sense. How does he go from being a kid who drowned, come back as a man? If he wasn't really dead, then what was he doing? None of it makes sense. Look, Friday the 13th isn't supposed to make any sense. There's no logic. That's too many questions you're asking of the series that you want to be answered. It's about, the first one's about his mom. It's a real one. It has a plot. I mean, some of the later ones have a plot, but the first one, his mom, there's a whole story of his mom having the revenge plot. And then it's whatever director wanted to do with Jason in that movie is what they decided they wanted to do. I mean, there's some good ones where part 6 where you do have story and part 4 where you do have a story. But some of the later ones, it was just, it was more about, I want him to kill that bastard.
Yeah, my answer to that would be Jason never stops. He's just a killing machine. He's always on the go. So my thought would be just run. There's a motherfucker coming at you with a machete, and don't stop to think about how old he is or where he came from or what. All you need to worry about is there's a mutated looking dude coming at you with brutal force and some sort of object with bad intentions. So don't stop to think about the plot. Who cares? Just run and enjoy it. That's how I see it.
And I meant to say last week, well, actually, I thought about it after the episode, but we talked about movies that a lot of people don't like, but that we liked. The Friday the 13th remake. I don't get the hate for it. There's like Halloween, or Nightmare on Elm Street. There's an established lore there that, the remakes kind of broke. Whereas Jason, I mean, the story just changes every time. So I feel like the remake was a good part of combining 1 through 3 into a movie, and I thought they did a great job with it.
I agree, and I've said before I don't like Jason X, but I can tolerate Jason X, and I'll tell you right now that I can count on one hand, maybe two hands, how many movies this remake is better than in the actual series. If I'm honest, and we're weighing them out as good movies, the remake is one of the better ones up there. There's no question about it. Compare it to 5. Compare it to 8. Compare it to X. Compare it to Jason Goes to Hell, and you're going to tell me it sucks? I mean, it doesn't. It doesn't suck at all.
I probably have it 4th on my list. With 6, 4 in the original, and then I'd probably put maybe that and 2 right there.
It's close, and Derek Mears did a fucking great job as Jason, and that's another thing to answer Nicole's question is when you stop to look at plot holes and things like that, you could ask yourself, this doesn't add up. But you know what? When Kane Hodder looks the way he fucking does in The New Blood, and when Derek Mears looks the way he does in the remake, it doesn't matter about plot holes. They look cool as shit, and you want to see them kill people.
We also want to see him fight Freddy again, but we want Kane Hodder this time.
All right, well, that'll wrap us up for today. So please don't forget to write in your questions to us on Instagram and Facebook and Twitter at highonhorror420. Or email us at highonhorror420@gmail.com. Now it's time to get into our review/discussion of this week's film, The Return of the Living Dead.
Today's movie is The Return of the Living Dead, and it starts on July 3rd with Freddy, played by today's guest Thom Mathews, starts working at Unita Medical Supplies, and his foreman Frank, played by James Karen, trying to look like the cool boss, shows him drums left over from the military. Frank accidentally opens the barrel and releases the toxin inside. A dead body left in the meat locker reanimates. So joined by their boss, Bert, played by Clu Gallagher, they cremate the corpse. Doing this releases the gas into the air and creates acid rain, and this reanimates the bodies at a local cemetery. Freddy, joined by his friends Casey, Spider, Trash, Chuck, Suicide, and Scuzz, they'll try to fight off these zombies.
Man, 1985 was one hell of a year for zombie movies. George Romero's Day of the Dead came out. Reanimator and Return of the Living Dead came out all in that year, and they're all amazing. Return easily being the best one.
I don't know about that.
Yeah. Dan O'Bannon made his directorial debut with The Return of the Living Dead, but before that, Dan had met John Carpenter at USC in the 70s, and they expanded O'Bannon's student film Dark Star into a feature-length film with Carpenter at the helm of the director's seat. Dark Star went on to win the Golden Scroll. After some time passed and some projects fell through, Dan O'Bannon was homeless and broke. He was living with a friend and science fiction writer Ronald Shusett when he came up with the story for Alien, and it gave him the career break that he needed. Ronald Shusett went on to write Dead and Buried and Total Recall, so that's a pretty successful team.
Yeah, and you had recently just had me watch this. I don't know how this fell through the cracks and just one of those movies I had never got to, but I enjoyed it a lot. I loved the the punk soundtrack to it, and I liked the ending. How Night of the Living Dead, you have one of the survivors is shot by the cops, whereas in this one, the whole city gets nuked on July 4th, and in typical fashion of it being a fuck up, they nuke it, and then you have more acid rain. It's just going to continue the cycle and create more zombies.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. The Return of the Living Dead changed everything. It was the first zombie movie, the first zombie comedy. It was the first zombie movie. I'm sorry. It was the first zombie comedy. It was the first film with fast zombies, and it was the first film that made zombies eat brains. Add to that the memorable quotes from the film. You think this is a fucking costume? It's a way of life.
That's one. The Freddy line. I like this job. And my favorite one is the zombies. Send more paramedics.
Right. And Linnea Quigley's nudity as the punk rock trash is erotic as hell. It's such a goofy movie, but it works well. And FYI, that's not really Linnea Quigley's vag, folks. That's a prosthetic.
I didn't know there was prosthetic vages.
Well, there is, at least in this case. Anywho,
The more you know.
something funny that I want to point out is how this was Miguel Nunez Jr.'s second film. He had done Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning, as his first film, while Thom Mathews' first film was The Return of the Living Dead. And then he went on to play Tommy Jarvis in Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives, as his second film. So Miguel and Tom kind of switched off there. That's unique. But it's easy to see why Tom got the part as Tommy Jarvis after his work in Return of the Living Dead.
Yeah, but he doesn't have a line. These damn enchiladas. One of the most memorable Friday the 13th scenes. Well, I feel like Miguel had one of the most memorable scenes for comedic reasons in a Friday the 13th. And then Tom has the most iconic role outside of, well, I guess any of the Voorhees characters.
Yeah.
He has the biggest role in a Friday the 13th series.
Yeah, he's the most household name of a Friday the 13th series. Besides Jason Voorhees, it's Tommy Jarvis.
And I had reading more about Return of the Living Dead, the appearance of the zombies in the film were inspired by mummies from Mexico and the bog people of Wales.
Oh, nice. Well, yeah, and yeah, back to Return of the Living Dead. All the acting and effects are spot on. It's fun. It's punk rock. It's fuck you and the horse you rode in on, and it's even gory. There's never a bad time to watch this movie. And look at all the zombie comedies that came after it. Besides the shitty sequels, there were 4 sequels and only one that stood up to the challenge, and that was Part 3, which was directed by Brian Usna of Society and Reanimator fame. Besides those sequels, look at how many zombie comedies there are. Just to start, there's Zombieland 1 and 2, Little Monsters, Scout's Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse, Warm Bodies, Anna and the Apocalypse, Deathgasm, Cockneys vs. Zombies. The list goes on and on. I mean, that's just recently, within like the last several years or 10 years. I mean, I'd love to count how many zombie comedies there are out there one day. That just seems like it's impossible to do at this point. But the only zomcom to ever really stand up to The Return of the Living Dead is Shaun of the Dead. And that's the only zombie comedy that will stifle someone in an argument about Return of the Living Dead being the best zombie comedy, and rightfully so. That is hard as hell to choose between the two of them. They're both genius, and they both left their mark, that's for sure. I'm Team Return of the Living Dead, though. I do love Shaun of the Dead. Everybody loves Shaun of the Dead. It's impossible to not love Shaun of the Dead. But at the end of the day, Return has that 80s feel that despite, no matter how good Shaun of the Dead is, it just can't match that authentic 80s feel. And that authentic 80s feel is going to usually win a debate in a movie debate. That's usually going to weigh heavy for a movie more often than not. John, say something.
Yeah, I mean, I put Shaun of the Dead as my number one horror comedy, so I would pick Shaun of the Dead, but I would have to say this would be number 2. Well, actually, no, I guess not, because I didn't even have it on my top 5, so I'll put it top 3. I also really like Zombieland, but, yeah, I feel like that's the top 3.
All right, well, look, so those say Shaun of the Dead and Zombieland are more modern. For those being more modern, and Return of the Living Dead having come out in 1985, it stands toe-to-toe with them.
I would agree, but, I mean, it isn't like, well, I guess it was about 16 years between this and Shaun of the Dead. But I would say for zombie comedies, I feel like that's the 3. I don't know that there's really another one that can work its way into the conversation. I feel like the 3 are Zombieland, Shaun of the Dead, and Return of the Living Dead.
I can agree with that. I think that regardless of, everybody might have a different order for them, but in regards to a top 3, I think you're right. I think that is the top 3. It's just depending on who you are is going to depend on what's 1, 2, and 3.
Now it's time to get on to Burn and Learn, the segment of our show where we fill you in on some behind-the-scenes facts about the movie we're talking about. In this case, Return of the Living Dead.
Oh.
Burn and learn.
Miguel Nunez Jr. was homeless when he was cast as Spider.
Actress Jules Shepard was originally supposed to be Trash, but wanted to be a party girl instead.
Add to that, Jewel was a stripper when she met Dan O'Bannon.
Trash was originally called Legs in the script.
Tarman was designed to look like a thinking zombie. Dan O'Bannon didn't want dumb zombies.
Return was filmed in 6 weeks.
They only had 2 weeks to put together the soundtrack.
All interior shots were soundstage sets.
I'm going to bring this up to Tom when we talk to him. Tom really pierced his ear for the part of Freddy.
The concrete arch over the cemetery was made out of foam.
They rented every tombstone from Universal. The tombstones in Return of the Living Dead have also been used in such films as Dracula and other Universal classics.
The voice from the helicopter is Dan O'Bannon.
The Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Tobe Hooper was originally supposed to direct the film. Well, that concludes Burn and Learn. Now let's get on to talking to Thom Mathews. Thom Mathews is an American actor with nearly 40 years' experience in the business. He's been in such films as the classic The Return of the Living Dead and fan favorite Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives, where he plays the iconic Tommy Jarvis. Welcome, Tom. Thank you for being on High on Horror.
Oh, my pleasure. Are you guys high right now?
Oh yeah, we're fucking
Yeah,
lit.
of course.
What about you? Do you how often do you smoke?
I don't. I very rarely nowadays. I used to smoke a lot when it was illegal. Now it's legal. It's just not any fun anymore.
Took the fun right out of it,
No,
right?
we used to get. Going way back, 4 fingers of Colombian dirtweed for $10. It was all day. It was just.
Oh, that's great.
I mean, I used to smoke in high school, and after 2 years, I just kind of look down at myself and go, "Man, I can't do this anymore because I needed a bath. My clothes were all dirty. Just like something's got to change." But then I started. We actually grew. My brother and I, we would grow in our backyard. We were living with my grandmother in Hollywood. We'd get her to water the plants because she thought they were so beautiful. She didn't know what they were. And then we'd harvest them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
We'd harvest them. Yeah, and then she found out, years later, and got a little bit upset, but wasn't that upset, I guess. So,
Did you ever have a favorite strain?
yeah, the kind that had the red fuzzy things on the buds. I wouldn't know a strain from a strand. I don't know. We just whatever we got the seeds, we put them in washcloths and germinate the seeds and put them in the ground. They sprout up, and then we transfer them into a bigger container, a pot, and then we would top them as they were starting to grow, and so they'd split off twice, and then once they were all purple and fuzzy, we'd pull them out and turn them upside down so all the THC would run to the buds and stuff. And that's how we would do it.
Oh, that's pretty funny you mentioned about them not knowing that it was actually weed. My mom told me a similar story that my uncle's friend had given my grandmother a plant, and she was growing it, and she brought everybody back. She's like, "Look how beautiful this is. Isn't this so nice?" And they're like, "Mom, no, you're growing weed." When you did smoke, what were your favorite things to do?
Nothing. I like to eat, eat and watch movies. And
Don't
stuff.
we all? Did you have like a favorite way? Did you prefer like papers, using a bong,
we would do
a
paper.
bowl?
Oh, another funny story. So we were kids. We were smoking all the time, and I had long hair, and we'd make we'd make our own chains, and there'd be a leather lace with wood beads and then a cross, because I'm Catholic, so that would be, and our hair would be down to here. Some older guy, it must have been, I don't know, older guy, was like 28, 29. He saw us, and he knew we smoked weed, so he reaches into his pocket and goes like this. He had a little joint. And then at the time, I just happened to have one of those long papers, like this long, and I pulled this thing out like that to him. And then I also read, I got very good at making, there was different joint types. So there was like a megaphone one. It was like a cone. So you light it at the end, it would smoke down. So I read up how to do it, and I got very good at it. And at the end of the directions, it would say, "You're going to get very good at this. People are going to want you at parties, but you're going to be over in the corner rolling joints all night. So you may not want to do it." And then we would get the ends of the joints, and then save them all, and then put them in a ball in aluminum and cook them. And then that would be our next way that we light them and smoke them and smoke that. And then hash oil too. We'd smoke hash oil. That was pretty popular. Hang on one sec. Do a Zoom. So we would do that, and then we got creative.
Now, in The Return of the Living Dead, I read that there was 2 jackets made. The one that says "fuck off," and then you needed a TV version.
It says "fuck you." It says "fuck you," and then the other one says "TV version" for the TV version, which I wish I would have kept the TV version one. That was kind of funny.
I was going to ask, did you keep any of those jackets?
I didn't. I think they kept them just in case we had to do reshoots and stuff, because you never know.
And your zombie makeup, how long did that take?
That took about 4 hours, I guess. It was a prosthetic, which I still have. I actually have the piece. It's a latex. I have it in a plastic bag. That took about 4 hours, and I could barely see through it. It was I only worked for a couple of scenes, I guess. We're busting ass, we'll break it through the door in the chapel, and then going down the hallway, and then busted through the attic to get Tina.
Well, July 9th of 1984, so just not even a month ago, the first day of filming on Return of the Living Dead happened. 37 years.
Wow.
It's been 37 years. 37 years later, how does it feel to have been part of that movie, man? It's so iconic.
It is. I mean, it was just got lucky. Got double lightning strikes twice with that and Friday the 13th for me, and we shot them like a year apart. It was my first big role in a movie, and it was such a great part. I mean, I started off as this naive kid, and through the course of the movie, die and end up being this, brain sucking zombies. So it was a really great. It's a fun part for an actor to play. From that kid until the zombie, and it's a lot of fun. And I had a great
Yeah, you had a lot of luck.
had a great experience. Had a great experience filming that, and Dan was great, and it was a collaboration. He let us do everything was talked about, and if we had any ideas, and between Jimmy and I, because most of my scenes were with him, and a lot of it, some of it was improv, some of it we added lines. Like this job was a line I just came out of me as he was saying, "You better watch your tongue if you like this job." And I said, "Like this job?" So that was one of them.
Well, I was actually going to ask you about Dan O'Bannon. How was it like? Yeah, like this was like your first big role, and you got to star like under the direction of Dan O'Bannon. How was that? And like you had said, he was open to suggestions, and you said you were blown away by that idea. Well, was he behind you playing the part of Freddy like as a drama?
Yeah, for sure. I think he really liked my audition when I came in, and I played it, like any drama, and I think that's what makes the movie work so well. It's truly is a comedy drama. So we played it for real, and the situations is what makes you laugh at it, which makes it so much fun.
Yeah, I agree 100%. And actually, Return of the Living Dead was the first zombie comedy, and it was also the first film with fast zombies. Was that anything that Dan O'Bannon discussed with you, or is that just things that people realized after the movie came out?
I think after the movie, I think he had probably thought about it. I didn't really think about it because I wasn't really privy to those scenes. I was just go to the set and do my stuff, and I'd hang out a little bit afterwards. But yeah, we didn't really talk about it. We did rehearse for 2 weeks before we shot, which was cool because you hardly ever do that on a film ever. So that was insightful that he was able to do that and get the money for it. So I think that was very helpful, because it looks like we're just talking, everyone's talking over each other, but that was all planned out and well rehearsed and stuff like that.
Well, that's good to work under a director that's that well planned out and rehearsed on everything that he wants to do.
Well,
that definitely helps.
We were all his first film he directed, so we are kind of winging it. And I think a low budget indie movie kind of gives a creative energy to a movie. You kind of just flying by the seat of your pants. You have a structure, you have the script and stuff, and you kind of know what you want to do, but then you just you grab onto the creative stuff that as it comes up, because it's like any other thing. Whether you're building a house, things come up and you make the adjustments or try and make it better. And Dan was smart enough to let the actors change it for themselves to make it more honest for themselves, and that's why I think it all comes through. Everyone gave a great performance.
Yeah, you can tell that everybody on set, like, at least it comes off on even though like everybody's in a scary situation.
Yeah.
You guys all portrayed it as if it's almost as if like the viewer, it's fun to watch because you can almost tell that although you guys are scared, it's almost as if like you guys are having fun. It feels like the cast is having fun while also being scared, and that's what's fun like to the viewer watching it.
Well, that's cool.
Did you guys have a lot of fun like filming it?
I did. Yeah, I think most of us did. It's a fun, heightened reality, situation. So.
Absolutely. Can you tell us the story about how you pierced your ear for the part?
Okay, I pierced my ear for the part. Not much of a story. Dan found out about it. He was shocked that I had done that. I also had a little pigtail in the back of my head, and I've kind of always done that. I did another movie where the guy was scripted as dark-haired and muscle, and I got the muscles, and I dyed my hair dark, but it didn't look right on my coloring, so I bleached my hair out white, and I went down to the set without telling the director, and he loved it. He goes, "This is great." Just didn't look right on me on my coloring. So I've always kind of.
Oh wow! So it just worked out.
Yeah, I just kind of artistically do my own thing most of the time.
Well, yeah, you weren't sure that or you were uncertain of the fact that they were going to have a fake earring that you could use, correct? That's why you pierced your ear.
Didn't even think about it. Yeah, I thought it was perfect for the character. I still have the whole.
Oh, perfect.
It closed up, but yeah, yeah, he was. He could have faked it, but I was more.
Yeah,
You know,
you're a dedicated
I
actor.
was. I am. I was, and yeah, more of a method, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Uh, well, how was you had mentioned Jim Karen? How was working with him? The two of you on screen were like peanut butter and chocolate. So how was like your time with him?
That's a Reese's Pieces. That's a peanut butter cup, which is my favorite. One of my favorite candy bars.
Same.
Yeah, fantastic. It was great working with him. A lot of fun. You know, if I was a producer, I would have hired him any chance I could get because he loved being there. He was so infectious about working, and just his attitude was just it uplifted everybody, the crew, the actors, and just wanted it just made us want to be better, as an actor and as a performance. So he was great. As you know, we did part two together as well. And we found out on part two that we were born on the same day. So that was interesting. And maybe that's why we gelled so well together. After we found that out, we celebrated our birthdays together, us and the wives for many years until he passed. And he'd come over to the house for the holidays and stuff like that. So we remained friends and very close.
Oh, that's really cool. Did you remain friends with anybody else from the cast over the years?
Yeah. I see Miguel. Well, I see a lot of the people at the convention still. So that's always fun. Was friendly with Beverly for a while, and who else? Miguel, I see every once in a while, probably 3-4 times a year. We have everybody has our phone numbers and emails and stuff like that. So that's all good. Linnea, I see. She's into dog rescues. My wife's into dog rescues. So they're always communicating. I see her a lot at the conventions as well. So good to see her and everybody.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And behind the scenes, I see the makeup guy Kenny Myers. I see every once in a while, and Jules Brenner. He was the DP.
Well, that's cool. Yeah. It's
yeah.
I when I was at the first convention that I ever went to, you and Linnea Quigley were there, and you guys were the first two people that I ran up to, and I got my Return of the Living Dead poster signed because I've been a fan of that movie since like I was like a young teenager, man. Like and like I was like there was like all these people there, and I was like I'm going to fucking Thom Mathews and Linnea Quigley, and you guys were cool as shit, I love that movie, man,
cool.
and so it's cool, like you said, that you guys are at conventions, so even if you don't talk year round, you guys could still mingle and get together at those type of events. That's really cool.
It's so great. I mean, I put off doing them for so long, and then I felt like I was selling my soul. But when I started doing them, someone talked me into do it. He goes, "The fans are great." Someone who had already done them, because, and it just the stories are just amazing. The heartfelt stories, how it impressed them, and how much they liked the movie, and what it meant to them, and when they saw it, and who they saw it with, and it's a great movie. It's really a classic film. I mean, it's part of pulp culture now because it started off the brain eating zombies too, and now every zombie movie out there is 80% of them are eating brains or want brains or in some way. That scene on the gurney with the half corpse and the spine bouncing back and forth, and they had that conversation with her. Not brains, not people, brains. From the pain of dying.
That's one of my favorite scenes.
So that was iconic to have a conversation, have her strapped down with a split, half corpse old woman having a conversation of why she wanted the brains, or why they all want the brains, I guess.
It's
It's like a morphine, you know. It stops the pain of dying.
it's such like an outrageous scene, but it works because the way the movie was set up, it works so well.
Yeah.
Well, one last question about Return.
A lot of it's outrageous. I mean, us cutting the guy's head off.
I know you saw him through and everything. Yeah, my God.
And he gets up. I mean, I've said this before, but we shot that scene at 6:00 in the morning. But when I saw it on the film, I was like, I couldn't watch it because we're cutting some guy's head off, but I was laughing my ass off. So I was like, oh God, you know, cranking my neck back and forth. And then Jimmy's supposed to stab him as we're letting him out of the ice chest. And he runs by Jimmy and he tackles Clue. You know, it's just freaking hysterical.
It's one of the funniest scenes in the movie still to this day. I can't only imagine that filming that was hilarious, especially at 6 a.m.
I hit the fucking brain. Hit the brain. I hit the fucking brain.
All right. Well, one last question about Return. Where does Return of the Living Dead take place in your heart? Is it your favorite movie you've done, or just one of them?
It is. It's my favorite movie I've done. It was my first big part. It was. I remember going to the set. I think we were like third week into shooting it, and it was like a dream. I was driving from Hollywood to Burbank because I lived in Hollywood, and going to the set, and I'm just thinking. I was like, finally, it was surreal. It was just a peaceful. My dreams had come true because I'd been working so hard towards that end, and it was a great part. And just having a great time, and it was a collaboration. And I only realized that like the second week I was into it because I had come home, and my mom had said no to me about something. I was like, no, I haven't heard that no in like 2 weeks. So it made me realize, you know, how lucky we were. So it was interesting. Yeah, it always, and the part, like I said, the part was great. It was a great part for an actor to play. The arc of the character was just off the charts.
That's good to hear. Now, moving on to Friday the 13th, Part 6. Our audience knows by now that's my all-time favorite Friday movie. How did you get involved with that?
They sent me the script, and I didn't really know much about the franchise. I read the script, and I, you know, went and auditioned for the casting director. They gave me a call back and went and read over at Paramount Production for all the producers, and Tom was there. Tom McLaughlin was there, the director, although I couldn't tell you which one he was sitting in the room. And ended up getting the part. I was reading against 3 other guys, I think, for the part.
Now, after you got the part, did you watch any of the previous Friday movies?
I did. Yeah, I watched 1 through 5 actually to see. I specifically was watching it to see where Tommy Jarvis's character came in at, to see if I could, if I needed to bring in any mannerisms from either Corey or John into my role. If they had a twitch or whatever, rub their eyes or something. So that's why I watched them. Saw part 5. I saw part 5. Scared the hell out of me. I thought, what the hell am I doing?
Were you a horror fan before making these 2 movies, or before this and Return of the Living Dead?
Yeah, no. Not really.
And from those Tommy actors, was there anything specific that you wanted to bring to your role?
No, just, you know, I always just read the script and the dialogue and see what the writer has in store for me and just kind of elaborate on that. I think Tommy Jarvis was, at the time, he was the closest to me of a character that I had played. So I kind of pretty much played it close to my vest and, you know, didn't have a lot of quirks. Like, you know, Freddy was a total character. It's just totally, you know, away from who I was at the time. It was a real character for me. And many characters in that movie, but initially punk rocker and, you know, all that stuff. I had a job. Freddy didn't have a job, or he just had his first day on the job.
Now, in the finale in the lake, did you do your own stunts?
Yeah.
How was that?
In which, on the lake in the fire?
Yes.
Yeah. I did most of it. The only part that I didn't do is when CJ is jumping on top of me and the boat kind of collapses. And then I did all the underwater stuff because you see it's me, the choking stuff. We shot that in a pool in California. We were underwater 40 minutes at a time. The guys with the oxygen, the scuba divers, were off camera, and if you wanted oxygen, you just go like this, and they'd come over and give you some oxygen, and you go, and then you would, action! Bubbles would go out of the mouth and stuff. We'd be choking each other and fighting each other.
Yeah, I know Tom was saying some of it was filmed at his parents' pool, and they had to put a black tarp cover up the writing on the bottom.
Yeah. That's the part where they, I think it was the motor when they, Jason got chopped up with the blade. Yeah, that was an insert.
Now, Drew and I both have our favorite kill, and when we talked to CJ Graham, he had the same answer, and it was when Sheriff Garris gets folded backwards.
Yeah, it's my favorite kill. I saw that kill in dailies. No music, no sound effects, no nothing. And it was unbelievable. The way it was a simple gag, and the fact that the guy's feet go up when he's bending over backwards, it's just like totally sells it, because that's when you snap the guy's back. His feet kick up, and that's my favorite kill. No blood, it's just pure. Even in dailies, it was like, oh my God, it was just perfect.
And Tom was telling us that was actually the kill he got the most flack from the MPAA.
Go figure.
Now, you also did the Friday the 13th video game, and Drew and I are big fans of that.
I did.
How did you end up getting involved with that? I mean, and I also have to say that they did an amazing job recreating all those movies in that game.
Cool. Yeah, I got involved. I think it was an afterthought because I think they were well involved, and I think the fans wanted Tommy Jarvis to come back. And they started talking to me about it, and I said, okay, but I should, Tommy Jarvis, I should have some kind of superpower. So they gave me a shotgun, and I had photo image approval. So the guy sent over the first image. The guy was like dark hair and a 5 o'clock shadow, a big chin. I said, I'm not even close, man. So I said, the guy obviously hasn't seen Friday the 13th Part 6. I can barely grow a 5 o'clock shadow now, let alone when I'm 24 years old. So we went back and forth 6 times. I said, no, the eyes are close, the chin is, the eyes are closer together, and so I'm in increments. And then I would put the picture he sent me in my picture, and every time. So we finally just ended up on the one that's in the game now, which is pretty closer to what I looked like, I guess, back in Part 6.
Did they do any kind of motion capture, or was it just that was kind of how they handled putting you in there?
That was it, because that's what I was saying. There was nothing. They were already well into the game, and I just came back. I think it was an afterthought. And I'm glad. I think they're glad they did it, but by that time, that was already broken down. Because Kane had already done it, and other people, I guess. And so I just did the voiceover of scenes, and then some wild lines off camera and stuff like that.
Yeah, and it definitely paid off asking for a power as Tommy, because Tommy's definitely overpowered in the game. I know when I play and somebody calls Tommy, I'll try to get myself killed so I can come back as Tom.
Yeah.
Have you played the game yourself?
Fun. I have, when it first came out, and my son played it. My middle son, he played it. We got it for him, and I was tooling around. I died, and I didn't really know how it worked, but I died because I was a camper, and then I came back as myself. And then I kept playing, and it's like any game, you have to play it a while to figure out all the nuances of the game. But I'm playing it as myself, and some other camper killed me. And I was like, what the fuck? That's not right. Some other, shivved me or something. So I called Gun Media up. Those are the guys who made the film. I said, that's not right. Campers shouldn't. Apparently at the time, when it first came out, there's a bunch of guys just trolling around killing all the other campers and stuff. So they they stopped that from happening.
It was a big problem at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, it was. Bastards.
Were you much of a gamer, or did you just play that because you're in the game?
Oh yeah, no. I like gaming. I like all the. I play the. Well, I used to. I mean, going way back, I was playing pinball when I was a kid. You know, that was fun. Then we did Centipede and all the games, and now Black Ops, and you know, I do it more, but I'm just too busy and stuff. But I like playing for sure. Band of Brothers was a lot of fun. It's an army movie where you could control, you could tell other factions of people to move a tank or two guys attack here. And it was during the World War II era, and old school army. Band of Brothers was pretty cool.
Well, the show they had on HBO for Band of Brothers was pretty good.
Yeah, it is.
And
I think Keith Gordon, the guy in Jaws, directed that. The kid in Jaws. Keith Gordon.
Wow. When you go to cons, which fan base do you see more of at your table? Return of the Living Dead or Friday the 13th?
You know, it depends on the venue and how the promoters selling or promoting. Sometimes it's Return of the Living Dead, and sometimes it's Friday the 13th. So depends on how they want to do it. But I did the Living Dead weekend in Monroeville at the mall, where one of the Days of the Dead was filmed, one of the early ones, and they have a museum there, and it was the weirdest venue for me, because usually it's in a hotel or something, and everyone's in one room or a few rooms. This is in the mall, so you're walking in the mall, and then there's they rent a space, a store over here, and you're sitting in there signing stuff, and then you walk. The Q&A was in the mall you could stand on the second floor and look down at the Q&A with all the chairs lined up.
Oh, nice.
You could hear it echoing throughout, and people would go upstairs, downstairs, and go into each little store in the mall. It was a huge turnout. So, that was different. So it depends on how they sell it, either Friday the 13th or Return of the Living Dead.
Well, either way, both of those fan bases are freaking huge. Either way, like it's
huge. The fans are huge.
I don't know if you just saw, but Terror Threads just put out a new line of T-shirts from Return of the Living Dead, and I'm like, my God, Cavity Colors just did a line. Like, I just bought one from Cavity Colors a few months ago, and I'm like, it's Return of the Living Dead is everywhere. So I definitely think that you're in the one movie that's going to give Jason some competition, if there ever was a movie that gives Jason some competition.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So let me get back to Jason Lives. I wanted to ask you, what's your favorite memory from that film? From making the movie, I mean.
My favorite memory. Well, I like all the action stuff, because I did sports growing up and stuff like that. So I like to do all my stunts. So that's always fun for me. My favorite memory. I have a weird memory. We were sitting around between sets, between shoots, and just sitting around hanging out. And this like 11-year-old kid comes up and he goes, "Hey man, is Jason wrong?" I like look at him. I go, "Yeah, I think he's taking a break right now." I go, "What's going on? What can I tell him something for you?" He goes, "Yeah. Could you tell him, like, if I leave my window open, can he come over and kill me?" True story. Not my favorite.
Well,
not my favorite memory, but
that's definitely a weird memory, like you said.
A weird memory. And then I remember when we had start shooting. We were shooting days, and then we switched over to nights, and it was in the jail cell. And that's kind of a tough thing to do, just to switch over 24-hour notice, because you don't get acclimated. But we were doing a close up on me in the jail cell with the Sheriff Garrison. And the camera's like right here on me, and all of a sudden you hear some grip had fallen asleep. It was like chopping wood. I tried to power through it, but I just couldn't do it. I just started busting up laughing. So and everybody was great. All the other kids were great in it, and Vinny Gustafaro was great in it, and David was great in it. So I still see Vinny. He's a neighbor. And then the other day, David Kagan, who played Sheriff Garris, was walking down my street. And I was pulling out of my driveway, almost ran him over. we talked. He lives right, maybe 5 minutes away from me. He walks around the block with his wife.
Oh wow! So you and Vincent and him all live so close together. That's pretty crazy. What are the odds of that?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And then Tom, the director, lives over in Glendale, not too far. He got his first house that he just remodeled. So that's we're all pretty close.
Did he put the Jason Lives tombstone in his garden again?
You know what? Probably in the backyard. Mm-hmm. I'm sure he did.
Well, do you think? Do you wish that the series, the films, had continued with your character instead of just kind of jumping on?
Absolutely. I mean, I don't know why it never made sense to me. I know why they did it because the franchise, Paramount had it, and it was like the bastard child who just wouldn't shut up, kept making noise. Here I am, I'm making money. You can't, you have to pay attention to me. So that's kind of how. So what they did was whatever the blockbuster was that year, whether it was 3D or in space or whatever it was, they piggybacked on that with the scripts that they made for that year. That's right. It was just kind of all over the place. Whatever they could leverage to make the most money based on what the hit was that year. That's what I'm guessing. I'd have to go back. I bet that's what happened, but I'd have to go back and see the 3D is when the 3D was huge back. Let's just say it wasn't any original thought on them. They were just like, let's just do this and get out of the way and stuff like that. I don't think they were very proud of the franchise.
Yeah, no, they were kind of like, holy crap, they're making money. Let's keep making them, but let's not acknowledge them. It was like, let's keep making them, but let's not acknowledge them because they're making us money.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I would have loved to come back in part 7 and continue the Tommy Jarvis thing.
Yeah, I think that would have been great. I mean, especially like with Kane Hodder taking over the role. I mean, even if CJ wasn't in the role, if it was still Kane, I see that that would have been amazing, man. That's why I wanted to ask that question.
Kane was they were going to use CJ because he did such a great job. I mean, but the guy, I think the director knew Kane as from someplace else, from working with him at another on another film or something. So that's why Kane got the job.
Okay.
From my understanding.
Well, we had Vincent Guastafaro on here, Rick the Dick, and he said that you two.
Oh, you saw that?
Yeah, he said that you two have a blast filming together. Yeah, he said you two have a blast filming together, and I wanted to ask you, what can we expect from you two in the Never Hike sequels that are coming out soon? What is it?
Hopefully we're gonna shoot Never Hike again in September. So there's gonna be a lot more of that. I may even get a T-shirt that says Rick the Dick on it. Get what made, but yeah, we I did the first one, and then we did the prequel, Never Hike in the Snow, after the fact. And I told Vincent DeSanti, who's runs Womp Stomp Films and wrote and directed, so we got to get Vinny in here because he survived, and so we put him in Never Hike in the Snow, and I'm so glad he did because he's fantastic. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I mean, you have the most memorable character from Part 6, but Vinny definitely has the most memorable line from Part 6.
Yes, yeah, bang. And again, that was an ad lib. He just threw that in. It's not even in the script.
Yeah, he was saying that he used to say it all the time, and Tom just kind of let him work it into the movie somehow.
Yeah, exactly.
And
yeah, they were friends before they filmed.
I know you said you had a couple new projects before we started recording. You're working on a couple movies.
Yeah, I'm actually going on next week on Tuesday, which is going to be August 10th, I think. Doing a film called it's called Final Summer, and I'm shooting that in Illinois, and should be fun. And then I had to write it down because there's a lot going on. There's a screening of Jason Lives in Columbus, Ohio, if anybody's out there, at Studio 35. And then the next night, we're screening Return of the Living Dead 2, and Dana Ashbrook's going to be joining us that night, and that's all at the same place, the same venue, Studio 35. And then I'll be at September 3rd. I'll be at the Midwest Monster Fest in East Malone, Illinois. And then on the 21st, a really cool project I'm excited about. It's called Go Away. So we'll be filming that, and you guys are going to like that one. And then in October 13th, I'll be in England for the Love of Horror with CJ. We're both going to be at that one. And then November 5th, Retro Invasion Weekend. And then November 12th, the New Jersey Horror and Film Festival in Atlantic City on the Showboat, which sounds like a very cool spot to have a horror convention on a showboat. So it should be cool.
That's awesome that you have so much going on. Where can people keep in touch with you on online so they can find out about all these different events?
I post everything on my Facebook page. It's just Thom Mathews. Just look for that. You'll find my fan page and just like it, and I keep everything pretty much going there right now.
Well, thank you again for joining us. I know Drew and I are definitely looking forward to the sequels for the Never Hike series.
Should be cool, yeah. Should be cool.
And hopefully we'll talk to you soon. And once again, thank you for joining us today.
You bet.
Thank you, man, so much. Thank you for taking the time to talk to us. It was awesome.
My pleasure.
All right. Take care.
Thanks to all the horror hounds and smokers out there. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks again to Thom Mathews. You all know my love of Jason Lives. I'm glad I got to talk to another cast member from that movie. Drew, I know how excited you were to talk about the Return of the Living Dead. It's cool Tom still smokes occasionally. However, I can't really relate to buying 4 fingers of Colombian dirtweed, though. I mean, next time we see you, Tom, we'll have to bring you something a little bit better. You can follow us online on Facebook and Instagram at HighOnHorror420 and on Twitter at High_horror. You can also reach out to us via email at highonhorror420@gmail.com. That'll about wrap her up. Catch yous later.
Hi, guys.